Yo, yo, yo. We got undiscovered prospects back here again. If you guys aren't following us on YouTube yet, drop a follow for sure. I appreciate everyone who watched the last video. And undiscovered prospects, the point here is you undiscovered by who you want to be discovered by, travel team, college, next level. And you also got to discover yourself. So you discover yourself, they're going to discover you. So we're here with our boy Eugene Bleecker, as you can see, and he's got the part 2 to this. We already reacted to the part 1. If you haven't watched that, watch that one first. Obviously they're probably going to build on each other. I have not seen these before, so this is live. And I'm just saying, we can drop a like on this for the homie, and let's get into this. This is probably going to get broken up into 2 pieces. It's an hour long, so let's get into it.
So anytime I give a presentation and we start digging deep, right? And that's what I'm going to ask you guys to do right here, right? We're going to get into couple complex concepts, but we're going to do our best to make it really simple and easy to understand, because they are. But anytime I do a presentation like this, I love to start out with this quote by the absolutely brilliant Serge Rakowetsky. Physics is wonderful because you know that whatever you do, someone else will show you that you're wrong. And now that you know that everything I will tell you is wrong, there is no point for you to disagree with me, right? So, I heard him start out his presentation like that one time, and I think it's such...
All right, I like this guy, though. I like this guy, but, tell me the mustache and that little accent he did isn't, fitting for, what he just read.
Brilliant way to start approaching some of these more difficult topics. The interesting thing about information, right, is that people are used to a standard education system where, you get to a certain level and you get your bachelor's degree, right, which is a base level of knowledge and a relevant...
Education is infinite. He's probably about to say something like that.
Subject matter. And then you get your master's, right, which demonstrates mastery in a subject matter. And I think we often forget, right, to keep on learning. And I think people often also forget that literally the purpose of your doctorate, right, or your dissertation, any discipline, is to investigate a problem that hasn't been investigated before or solved before by using the scientific method. Literally, your doctorate is trying to prove things wrong that you learned in your master's class. And I think too often people learn information and then profess to know it all without continuing to learn and ask for information. As I stated in the first presentation, information is just everywhere. And you also have to realize that experience and observation combined with insight often yield a new breakthrough into truth.
All right, let's break this quote down real quickly on a baseball level, right? Experience, let's say game footage, right? Experience in a game footage of your swing. Observation, you sit down with your coach, right? You're going to observe the video of your game. Combined with insight, coach is going to give you insight on your swing, right? That will produce a new breakthrough into truth and the nature of reality. So your coach is going to observe with you, break down the video, and give you a new reality of what you got to work on, what you did well, what you did bad, etc.
Is what we are searching for in the nature of reality, right? Education, a lot of it is theoretical, right? We need to get into application. We need to get into hands-on. We got to get a little experience and actually observing how these things affect people before we just profess to say oh yeah, what I learned in school or what I learned that's everything. There's nothing more. There's a lot more. There's information everywhere. There's gold nuggets everywhere. You got to dig. Right? And, I'm a huge believer in the man upstairs, and ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. And we have knocked a lot. And we feel like we've gotten a couple of answers, And what we're going to share is, what I'm about to share in the next slide, is the most important given you.
All right, I agree with this right here. But I think what's important and not talked about a lot is, don't ask to be in the starting lineup, because you'll be given the opportunity unless you're ready, unless you're really ready. Don't seek to play in college. Don't ask a coach to talk to a college coach for you unless you're really about it. You know what I'm saying? Because then if you ask and you seek, you will find. It says you shall find. You will find what you're looking for, but you also may find a lot that you're not looking for. All right.
Seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. And we have knocked a lot. And we feel like we've gotten a couple of answers, you know? And what we're going to share, what I'm about to share in the next slide, is like the most important thing that we've ever learned about the human body, and it's changed my life as a coach, changed our ability to make players better. But it's going to look like a lot of mumbo jumbo when you read it, okay? The human body is a fascially driven biotensegrity model that craves efficiency and moves reciprocally, right? That one statement encompasses the most powerful information you've ever come across. Right now, that means nothing to you. But in 1 hour from now, hopefully it changes your perspective on all human movement, okay? Now, why is this important? Why is that statement important? Well, because it literally changed everything. It changed the way I looked at everything, and it explains all of it, right? Things finally make sense, okay? But before we get in that deep, we got to start out simple. We got to start out with first principles, right? Which is a foundational proposition or assumption. It's the first basis from which a thing is known. And if we're going to do that, we really got to start by understanding biological systems. Human beings are biological systems. All of them crave efficiency. All of them crave efficiency, and the most powerful are the most efficient, okay? Now, let's think about what the word efficient even means. Capable of producing desired results with little or no weight.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but ever since I was a little kid, you know what I'm saying? It might be, you know, whatever, the way I was brought up, the way I am, whatever. I don't know about you guys, but I was always craving efficiency, like he says, but I always wanted everything to be in order. I always wanted everything to like look proper. I always wanted everything to like move and function proper. If I was working in a group with people on a project, I wanted it to like flow where everyone was in sync with each other. I don't know, like let me know what you guys think, because like that's how I always felt. I'm not sure if that's, you know, majority, minority, I don't know.
As of time or materials, and being or involving the immediate agent in producing an effect. So this is just jumping, right? But we got LeBron, we got Michael, and we got a kid in Africa in a high school high jump competition jumping over like an 8.5 foot, 9 foot pole or something like that. How much flexion do you see in his leg when he takes off? A lot? Like, is he getting really close to the ground to be able to explode up? I mean, that's a pretty high jump, and it doesn't really look like much. When you look at James and you look at Jordan from their jump leg, you're going to see the same exact thing. I mean, that's really interesting, right? Because you almost think that they want to like do more, right? Get lower to the ground before they jump, but they don't, right? They're more efficient. Now, I mentioned a minute ago that the most powerful animals are the most efficient. This is a concept of all biological systems, right? Through the nature of our reality, through the history of man, right? And way before, energy minimization. This concept drives the design of anatomy, right? Crocodiles move slow, they chill, but then when they need to, they can move in very fast bursts of energy in every which way with every part of their body. Same thing with sharks. They don't go fast all the time. They don't look like they're trying, they make it look easy, right? And the reality is, that's what the best in the world do. The best in the world make it look easy.
He was about to lose me right there, but I'm happy he brought in some baseball stuff. This dude, bro, Jordan, his swing is so smooth, bro.
Absolutely nasty, right? And when you really think about it, like all of those were home runs played at regular speed. And oh my God, Does it look like they're out of control, swinging as hard as they can, or are they making it look easier, right? And think about where the game's at. Think about what kids are being told, and then think about what you just watched. The best or the most efficient, they make it look easy, like they aren't even trying. Now, this is in our shop. Here we see some low bat speeds and some high EV. So that ball's hit about 110. I think it was like 109.3, right? That's by one of our big leaguers. Okay? The second video here is by one of our minor league guys.
So the difference here, right, if you don't know, bat speed is like they're measuring how fast you swing the bat. And then exit velo is the velocity coming off the ball. And actually something interesting, I saw this guy post, my guy Eugene here. He was saying how there was a correlation between low bat speed and then high, I don't know if he's going to talk about it in this video, but high barrel strike. So low bat speed, high barrel strike equals high exit velocity. Whereas it wasn't always high bat speed equals high exit velocity. It wasn't always like that.
73.6 bat speed. So we get high school kids that come in with like 85 mile an hour bat speed. They're swinging as hard as they can. They're all over the place. You just watch the guy like barely move, super easy, right? Super controlled, super efficient, 73 mile an hour bat speed, but hitting a ball 108 and change, right? That's interesting, right? Efficiency is king, guys. Based on the structure and design of the human body, we need to get to the strongest positions of leverage and move through them with the most economical use of energy possible. The most economical use of energy possible. Okay, now we've discussed a little bit about efficiency. Let's think about first principles of the human body, right? How do human beings move? What are first principles of the human body? So if we skip this back 300 years ago, all the way to Italy, to the Italian physiologist Giovanni Borelli. He was studying the human body, and he wanted to make sense of the human machine. And he wanted to figure out, like, the mechanism behind functional anatomy. Like, how did people actually move, right? And using the mechanical knowledge of their time, this is the model that he came up with, and it kind of made sense, right? Like, it looked like people, you know, you can bend your elbows, right? You can bend your knees, you can bend at your waist. So they just looked at the human body like a series of fulcrums and levers, right? Just hinges. That's it. Just look at it, made sense at the time, okay? So now let's talk about what a pinch or hinge joint is, okay? Like, they're looking at...
What I say on the last video, dude, I like guys like this because they go all the way. Like, they know all of the information, even if they don't use it. And then when they need to, they can go all the way. If the whole subject's a tree, right? The whole subject's a tree. Right now, we're at the base. And then he's going to start going in branches, right? And then at the end of this video, we're going to see the whole tree.
There's a 1 degree of freedom. 1 degree of freedom. If you have a hinge on a door, right, it can't go this way and this way. It can only go this way and this way, right? It has 1 degree of freedom, kinematic pair, used in mechanisms. They provide a single axis of rotation function, used in many places, such as door hinges, folding mechanisms, other uniaxial, so single axial rotation devices, okay? Think about a scissor, right? How it works, how you apply force. Think about a wheelbarrow, right?
And look. We might be watching this right now, and you're like, what are we talking about? Like, what are we getting into? Look, you know you're about to have a fire video. Like, I told you, I haven't even watched this, but, like, he's breaking it down from the root, right? What is a lever? Like, if you didn't pay attention in school, pay attention right now. Look, effort's on the thing right here, on the handle right here, right? Fulcrum. And then the force cuts the thing, right? This, you can carry a lot of weight. Why? Because look at the difference in the fulcrum, right? Where it's located and where's the effort, right? And then the bicep, the reason that you have a muscle here so you can lift the book, right? Like, I'm not even a scientist and I'm not even trying to sound smart. It's just like, this stuff interests me.
Now, in traditional biomechanics, right, and this model, this understanding, okay, is what was used to describe all of human locomotion, okay? That the lower body does all the work, right? The legs go like this, right, and move us forward, right? It's been used for the last 300 years, and it still gets taught at some universities. Can you believe that? That's a fact. Like, some of this information that I'm about to share is not only really powerful, like, it's not coming from, I didn't invent it, right? We're talking about like 40 years, 30 years, some of this has been around, but the education system is not built to filter information. That's why you gotta dig, right? So it was built to say the lower body does all the work, okay? Now, here's where our boy Serge Grakovetsky comes in. He wrote this book that changed my life, right? He wrote this book called The Spinal Engine. And this guy's a brilliant research professor, and one of the things that he said was that the fittest of a species is often described as the one that makes the most economical use of its energy resources within its own ecological niche or ecosystem. What that basically means is like, he who does the least to create the most survives the longest. Think about the lion and the cheetah. Think about the crocodile and the shark, right? Same kind of deal, okay? Now, he's looking at that old model, and he's thinking to himself, like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if the human body is a biological system, and all biological systems create efficiency, why would the upper body play no part in human locomotion? Why would the lower body just drag us around all day, right? And he literally discovered the fact that human beings are reciprocal movers, okay? Our first 3 milestone movements of human beings are rolling over, crawling, and walking. Each of them require us to have our arms work in opposite directions, right? Right arm goes forward, left arm goes back. And at the same time that our right arm goes forward, our left leg goes forward. It's the opposite leg.
Think about too, like when you are losing your balance on like the edge of a pool, right? We don't, like, some of us play that game where like you try to stand on the edge of the pool and not lose your balance. When you start to lose your balance, you start flailing your arms trying to get your balance back, right? So what he's saying is that your upper body plays an important role in movement, right?
When my arms do this, my trunk is rotating this way. When my left leg goes forward, my pelvis is rotating the other way. It's literally constant counter rotation. Everything we do as human beings is reciprocal movement. It's a foundational principle. It's a structure at the basis of life, right? Now, this was proven even further with other ridiculously amazing research, but take a look at this. This gentleman has no legs. He's standing on the base of his ischium. He has no arms. He is walking. He is walking, right? Because he doesn't have extremities, which are literally extras, right? He doesn't have those, but he has what he needs to survive. He has his torso, and he's got his head, and he can still walk and have locomotion even without.
I'm curious, like, I'm just interested in like what words mean, so.
The extremities, all of this happens right here, right? The rest of it needs to be slaves to everything that happens right here, okay? If you take somebody who's one of our pro guys, he's on what's called a Cortex board, right? Which is, it's not very balanced, right? You can spin around, go sideways, okay? When you try to throw a medicine ball on there, and I've done this with every player that's ever come into my shop since we figured this out and since we got that board, right? Because it's really effective in explaining it. In the last 6 years of doing that with guys, I've never seen anybody not go in opposite directions. Not one person, not my 5-year-olds, not our big leaguers, not any coaches, no one. Because that's how the human body is designed to work, right? We need to work in opposite directions reciprocally to be able to produce force. So a really easy way to think about this is think about when we hit, right? We always talk about the core. And then just in movement training in general, we always talk about the importance of the core, the importance.
And it goes back to like, he's probably gonna talk about it too, but like the hitting, right? Like when you hit, you get that cork, right? So like this back hip's coming back and this one's coming forward, right? So cork in it.
The middle. Just think about it like you're trying to create tension in the middle, right? And that's created by moving opposite directions. If you're going to wring out a washcloth, you don't wring one direction or pull the other. You go in opposite directions to create tension in the middle. That's exactly how the body works, okay? And it works that way in everything. It doesn't matter if it's bowling. It doesn't matter if it is hockey. right? It doesn't matter if it's soccer, right? When he kicks with his left foot, his upper body is going across his left foot. Okay? It's everything. When a guy throws a punch or a kick, right leg goes forward, upper body counter rotates into that kick. It's literally exists in everything that we do in sports and in life. It is, again, a foundational principle, and it's no different in hitting, right? Mike Trout, Robin Young, Stanton, all of these guys. Anytime you get results with like a kid that has a low training age, that's one thing, right? Like they get better with anything a lot of the time, right? But when it comes to a big leaguer, when it comes to a professional, like big results are hard to come by. That's the 1%, okay? We started messing around with this kickback with one of our pro guys in the off season. I'd never seen him hit a ball over 104. And literally inside of 20 minutes.
All right, I'm gonna skip some of this because he dragging a little bit for me. I think, is this Tyson? Yeah.
Has there ever been anyone that produced more force in a short window of time and space than Mike Tyson, right? And it is rotational, and he is trying to strike an object, and that object is moving, okay? Let's take a look at his body right here. When that punch goes to connect, when he throws that left right there, ooh, look at that lower half. Just grab in and work against it, right? Like, in hitting, we have to produce a lot of force in a small window of time and space rotationally to strike an object. It's a very similar thing. In hitting, not only do we see that kickback, but with some players, we see this really interesting, like, the pelvis is actually recoiling and counter-rotating even more. So he's kicking back early, but take a look at his hips right here. Right through impact, right after impact. Whoop! Reverse. Slams on reverse, right? That's a pretty amazing thing. And your best, like guys, your guys who produce, I shouldn't say your best, but your guys who produce the most force in the smallest windows, that's what you're ultimately going to see. Efficiency. Human beings are biological, we crave efficiency. Number two, all human beings move reciprocally. I can't stress that enough, or the importance.
All right, so we all want to be smooth when we move, obviously, right? Smooth when we move. And equal opposite reaction, right? One thing goes this way, the other thing goes that way. So as long as we're on the same page here, we don't got to get super scientific.
Right? Can't stress that enough, okay? And guess what? The model was wrong. The model was wrong. It was incomplete. It wasn't fully incorrect, but it was wrong, right? And guess what? It still gets taught in school today. That's what gets taught in school. That's what you're paying a lot of money for to go get an education, is you're learning the human. That model is not only unproven and has been disproven, it's 300 years old.
Do we even need to get into this, right? Like, school's on a delay, right? They don't want you to have the up-and-coming information, right? Because it's got to go through a funnel. It's got to, people who need to use it first get it, and then slowly it trickles over time. So that's how it works.
So that's why we all have to keep continuing to dig for information, right? You know what they forgot? They forgot rotation. They literally didn't account for rotation. They were looking at human beings move just like walking. Look, the fastest sprinters in the world counter-rotate the best. Running is not this linear thing. And all the running coaches that are forcing people to do that are literally making people worse and slower, right? That's not what we want. We want the body working in opposite directions, and the model literally forgot rotation, okay? Not about you, but I was mind blown. Right? Like when we got onto this and we started to figure this out, this blew my mind, and it's just that it was a huge game changer. And I encourage you to really dig in on that concept and that principle. So now we're going back to search. Okay, we're going to go back to search because he had a second thing that was a huge part of this discovery that we're getting to. So this is from a presentation he gave in, I believe it was 2007. You can find it on YouTube. I posted the link here. Is the lumbodorsal fascia necessary? Right? Now, in this presentation, he starts off by talking about the roots of confusion, saying a popular idea from the 40s was that back muscles do the lifting, and it's still believed today in spite of the evidence, right? So, when you look at that, when you think about traditional biomechanics, they're using that and that other model we saw before.
Bruh, that's... If anyone knows how much weight that is, let me know. Let me know.
Right, and those levers and fulcrums, and how you're on one side of a seesaw, and you have the fulcrum in the middle, and if you want to move the force on the other side, you have to press down on this side. That's the model that they were using to actually calculate how much force a human being can lift or actually produce. And you know, the interesting thing here is that when they were doing the math, and math is the universal language, right? When they were doing the math on it, and Rakovetsky was looking at it, the calculated results, and that the patient will explode when the attractive idea will survive experimental annihilation. I propose that happens in baseball also. Okay? Now, the next question is, and this is the important one, if the theory is wrong,
Yo, fire movie. You guys gotta watch that if you ain't seen it.
the model is wrong, and it doesn't all come from the muscles. Like, if the force doesn't come from there, where does it come from? Where is the force coming from? Okay? For that, we have to go to our guy Buckminster Fuller here. This is one of the most brilliant men that's ever walked on the face of the earth. If you haven't dug into his work, his research, his thoughts, highly encourage you to do so. Okay? So as an inventor, a systems theorist, he was an architect. What his goal was, right, for this, he was trying to build more efficient structures, more efficient living structures. In fact, let's hear directly from Buckminster Fuller. Let's see what he has to say about it.
I got into realizing that all of our structuring, all of engineering, is predicated on having marble blocks on marble blocks and stone to stone, compression to compression. We didn't get into tension of steel until 1851. So nothing in the roots touched anything else. And all of our building is in terms of touching. So I said, can I discover...
That guy's shaking his head. That's like the shake, like he just shaking, but you don't know what he's talking about.
How humanity can use its principles to hold things together, because that's what Kepler discovered, was these planets were holding together and with the sun and millions of miles apart. And they're holding together, there's something invisible, tension. So I realized that when we made the wire wheel, we did connect the rim with the hub just in tension. It took a minimum of 12 spokes to do it. So I said, I think, can I get into instead of just being a plane like a wheel, can I get it omnidirectional? I'd like to I mean, let's see, this is like a basketball, it just bounces.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it distributes all its loads. You see a lot of sticks, and the sticks, no stick touches another. The sticks are like the bricks. They're held together simply by what you call Dacron thread, which we use for cleaning our teeth. But no thread is slack. Everything is all pulling. So when I drop it like that, it distributes the load through the whole thing. It's like a basketball. It's exactly like a basketball. Put air into a basketball, pump it in, and it gets hotter and hotter. It gets a little hot.
Now, one of the reasons I love this particular video is because even when he mentions that basketball thing, it's like he says to himself, like, well, it's exactly like a basketball. Like, he had never even thought of that before, right? And he talks about how, you know, when you put air in a basketball, it's going to get harder and harder. The other way you can make a basketball
Pause.
harder is by pressing on it. If you press on a basketball, it's going to resist you more and more as you continue to press. So these structures are clearly very different, right? As an architect, he's looking at those, and he's basically saying, like, okay, you know, to build that structure, it's a lot of heavy material, it's not very efficient, it's super expensive, right? So I wonder if I could create buildings or create things that use less materials, lighter materials, easier to construct, last longer, okay? Now, that's where he coined the term and came up with tensegrity. He literally invented the word. He made up the word. He combined tension and integrity, tensional integrity to tensegrity, okay? So when you think about these structures, right, they have ice.
Dude, crazy. Okay, I just got thinking. The craziest building I've ever seen in person, right? Obviously, like, you can look up stuff online. Dude. Like, bro, what? This is real. This is real. Like, this is some estate some people used to live in. Like, we went here on like a 5th grade field trip, yo. Like, they don't make buildings like this no more. I mean, a little off topic, right? But like dude, this shit's tough. It's like Bruce Wayne, you know what I'm saying? All right, let's get back.
Parts of compression, which are rods, right? And then they're inside this net, right? It's a net that surrounds the whole thing.
All right, type yes in chat if we skip. All right, I don't got to chat, so I'm the only one voting. Let's skip ahead.
So he was a brilliant orthopedic surgeon, okay? And he's still around. You can find his work. You can read his work. So back in, I believe, it was the 70s or the 80s, right? This is a true story, by the way. He's literally walking around a museum. Okay, he's walking around a museum, and he sees a dinosaur's neck, okay? And he starts thinking to himself, like, holy cow. The accepted model for the human body is completely wrong. Combination of both tensioned and compressed parts. That's literally how we are built, right? So now we move to the GOAT of all time, okay? And this is the one of
the GOAT.
Biggest pieces to this whole process here, okay? Dr. Donald Ingber, right, from Harvard University. Okay, he runs the Wyss Institute, which is a biologically it's cells, but they weren't learning a whole lot about how the cells actually like moved around, right? They were just looking at like what was inside of the cells. And at the time, he also ended up taking an art class while he was there, same time. And guess what they were building? You guessed it, tensegrity models. And he was sitting around one day and he started to think to himself, man, you know, we keep looking at these slides under a microscope. Reads you will ever look at your entire life. I think it should be.
He got us deep in the bag right now. Like, deep in the bag right now. Type yes in chat if you want me to skip.
Silverado 3500, right? What are those things built for? They're built to like heavy load, heavy lifting, right?
Never mind, bro, never mind.
Pulling it up a mountain, right? That's what the muscular system is really for. When we think about the ECM and the fascial system, think about it like a Ferrari, right? Or a Lamborghini, right? It can't pull heavy stuff up mountains, but boy, it gets off the line really quick and it stops on a dime. And it controls hairpin turns better than everything else. Literally, this fascial system and understanding this, if you've ever had a player that was like small or never lifted or didn't lift the weights, or like we've happened to have been blessed with a lot of young players that have ended up putting out some amazing results. Like we had a couple of different 8th graders.
This is the one right here, bro. Like, when I was a kid, I had this as like a Hot Wheels, dude. That was like the first supercar I was ever like, yo, this one tough. Like, bro, it's so clean too, like yellow. Hello.
We're above 90 miles an hour, and they weren't really big and physical. We have a bunch of 9th graders that have been up to 95, and 10th graders, 97 plus. Like, we see college guys come in all the time that are 225, you know, lift weights, can lift a house, right? Built well, and they throw 82 in their arm rows. So why, right? Jake DeGrom last year had the hardest average fastball in the major leagues, and it's.
I think that's like a big disconnect in the game of baseball too, right? Like, everyone's like lift heavy, like get stronger, yada yada, like lift weights, and then baseball players take advice from like bodybuilders online, and it's like, what are your goals? You want to like look aesthetic, or do you want to be athletic? You got to choose. And some people have good genetics where they can get both, but like that's not the majority.
Going up, the guy never touches the weight room, literally never goes to the weight room, right? He doesn't want to, doesn't feel good for him, that's not what he wants.
And how embarrassing is it to be like, I won't say it's embarrassing, but like for me personally, if I lifted a house of weight, like if I was in like 300, if I was like, 4 plates deadlift, and I could do like 2 plates bench, and like, you know what I'm saying, like that type of strong, and I only threw like 80 miles an hour, like it would bother me. So like what this guy is about to say kind of interests me.
He is using his ECM system. Both of those systems exist in everyone. Both of them work in harmony. But when we need to lift heavy stuff, the muscular system is kind of take over a little bit more of the load, but when we need to move fast, stop on a dime and make a hairpin turn, that's all the connective tissue, guys. Like that's the fascial network, okay? Now, why is this important?
What I say in the last video, bro, the most important question you can ask is why, every time.
Why is this stuff important? Well, it gives us the ability to start looking at the body totally differently. The old school of medicine looked at the human body in these like individual, invisible parts, and they broke it down into this, subanatomical perspective. Right? This gives us the ability to look at the human body as one gigantic integrated system, not the parts, the whole, right? And remember what wisdom is, right? It's the distilled essence of knowledge once you've forgotten all the little details. And you start understanding how the whole actually works, okay?
And I think it's interesting too, because, like, I don't know about you, but I've been in situations, right, where, like, say I'm with a buddy, right, or say I'm with two guys, right, and both these guys in the weight room can like lift exactly roughly the same thing, but then when it goes to like picking up, I work landscaping in the summer, when it comes to like picking up, say, something like a boulder, right, certain people just move their body more efficiently so they can pick up the boulder when they're both equally as strong, but one just knows how to move better.
The most powerful statement, going back to that statement earlier. This is an integrated system that moves reciprocally, and it's surrounded by rubber bands. Like, that right there changed everything for me, for us, for our results with players, both in health and high performance, getting results on the field, right? You can literally look at the whole body in this way, and it explains so much. Not just about the greatest of all time, not just about little kids, but about all of it. It gives us a more true and accurate understanding of the sphere of player development, right? Now, another good way, right, there's another explanation that makes sense to a lot of people to look at it, is that the trunk up here, right, not the extremities, the trunk, right? The trunk is like a cannon, okay? The pelvis is a boat. The legs are like ropes, and the feet are like anchors. The only way you can fire a cannon from a canoe, my friends, is if you anchor it down from both sides with a whole lot of tension.
That's actually a fire analogy, bro, because a lot of people are good, like upper half good with their hands, but like their feet are always like, sometimes they step here, sometimes they step over there. Like, you gotta be rooted in the ground, bro.
Because you need the tension to give it stability. Right? That way that what's up top can actually do its job. So I hope that makes sense for you. That one seems to get through to a lot of people, and it's a really effective way to also kind of look at this thing. We talk about anchors a lot, right? We talk about the back leg literally being an anchor, and there's multiple ways to use it. Like when you see differences in hitters, because there's things that are the same, right? And there's things that are different for everybody. Both systems are working here, right? George Springer is anchoring into the ground. He's moving reciprocally, right? He's grabbing it and gaining stability. Tatis Jr. is anchoring in the air, right? But the mechanisms are the same. What's going on internally is the same. They don't all have to look alike, but we need what's going on the inside, right, to happen.
And that's a big thing, too. I feel like a lot of coaches, and I'm not saying, like, it's the majority, but, like, a good chunk of coaches, they have like a one frame mind of like teaching hitting mechanics, whereas like some of the best coaches I always worked with, it was like a one-on-one fit, right, trying to figure out what's best for you.
With everybody to be a high level performer and to maximize health in this thing, okay? Now, if we go back to our empirical observations from yesterday and look at them again, right, let's see what we see. So, observation 1. Landing, pelvis and trunk are neutral with some degree of hinge, okay? Well, when we think about a forward move, right, really the objective is to move laterally and prevent rotation as long as possible. All those people land as close to square as you can get, right? So you can grab the ground, you be in the strongest position to grab the ground, right, when it's actually time to rotate, okay, when it's time to rotate. So the objective of the forward move, right, is just to move forward laterally. That's it. That's the whole thing, is move forward sideways. And, when you look at these forward moves, they vary, and that's okay. One of the worst things about hitting is when you have, like, players and you see them and you know exactly who they hit with. You know exactly who trains them, because they all do the same drills, they all look the same, they're all in the same positions. Do all these hitters have the same forward move? Do they all anchor the same way? Do they all? No, because there's variability and individuality. But as long as we get to where we get to when we need to get there, it doesn't matter. And that's how we still have to start looking at the forward move. The goal is to land as sideways without rotation as we possibly can. Land as neutral as we possibly can so we can be in the strongest position. And we have to move as coaches, like cues are great. Cues can be amazing, but they can also be awful. Like think about the whole stay back cue, right? Stay back, stay back, stay back. Babe Ruth stood with his...
That is a garbage cue. Another garbage cue is don't drop your shoulder. Like anything in that realm.
Together with a gigantic forward move. Hank Aaron did the same thing. He had a monster forward move, right? So if you have somebody that has a propensity or tendency to really go forward, what do you think a cue might be for them that would work? I don't know, maybe stay back, right? Because of the duality of life, it puts them in the middle. But then when they start teaching people what was important to them, then they hit. And they start telling little kids and high school players, stay back, stay back. Well, all those little kids, all those high school kids, now they're stuck. They're stuck. They never actually learned how to go forward. Go forward, stay back, doesn't matter. They're just cues. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The goal is to get to the position and move well. Remember, it only matters if it...
Okay, and I agree with this too because we'll stay back. They use stay back like it's fundamental advice. It's not. It's cute. Like you said, some cues work, some cues don't.
Affects the movement. If it's not doing what you need it to do, you got to go to something else. Okay? Now, next, right? Landing. When we mentioned hinge in that other presentation, that's posture. We call that posture, right? And different hitters, like we talked about, have various degrees of this hinge and posture position. You look at everybody from, Ken Griffey up tall, you look at Freddie Freeman lower, Ricky Henderson, again, really, really low. It doesn't matter the exact degree. Most guys gain about 10 to 15 degrees as they read the ball that's coming in to the ball they're going to hit. And it doesn't matter what degree they're in as long as it's the right degree for them. Right? Making everyone do the same thing, again, doesn't work. Getting a guy more hinge that doesn't need it could hurt him and it could make him worse. Giving a guy more hinge that does need it could make him explode and make him healthier, right? So it's about understanding each guy and understanding the body and how these things actually work.
I think a big piece of hitting too is like a lot of guys want the coach to give them the answer, but like almost all the answers for your swing or whatever are found like by yourself, hitting alone, trying stuff out and seeing what feels right, because you can't do that in a practice when you have limited rounds and limited time. And a coach who's bouncing around from multiple people, he's going to do his best, but he can't give you the answer because you have the answer and you got to figure that out on your own.
Together. Now, the other big thing about this posture, right, what does it help create? Well, it helps us create space. So you see this window right here under Vladdy, and this was a home run in the home run derby, by the way. All right?
If you ever played the bigs too on the Wii, this boy used to hit nukes, bro, when you had the power up.
Look at that slide, you're going to see all the posture and hinge he gains as he gets into landing. Now, when you take a look at this space right here, our upper body, the cannon, has to rotate after we land through a window, right? Think about like a 3D window. And it has to strike this object out here. We need space and room for it to actually turn. When I'm up here, I can't really do that very effectively. My own body is getting in my way, right? That's why like Griffey only had like a little bit of hinge, but he still had room to do what he needed.
See, I was curious what he was going to say about Griffey, because Griffey was pretty vertical.
Dude, you have to have space. Right? And posture helps us create space, okay? It also helps us create direction. When you think about that hinge right there, think about if this is up tall and rotating, it's going this way, right? If I have posture and I'm rotating, whoop!
Dude, we talked about this yesterday, dude. This is exactly what we talked about.
Rotating forward with direction. Right? My spine and my tornado is not going to my left into the other dugout. It's literally rotating to center field. Right? I'm giving myself direction with my energy and my...
And I see this with a lot of young kids I work with. They often hit a lot of balls pull side, so they rotate open. They rotate horizontally. Where it's like, and I think the posture thing the posture thing helps, right? Because he's talking about like getting like that. But like also, like I said yesterday in the last video, bottom hand 50%. I'm lefty. It's my bottom hand. Top hand 50%. You get to it with your bottom hand, then you get through it. The top hand controls like what you do. If you just come through and then the top hand just comes along, you're gonna pull out, right? Pause. But if you come to the outside and you push through to the outside, you're gonna keep that energy going that way, where it's like boom, boom, middle, right? The posture is key, but like I don't know. Let's see if he says something about the hands, cause like I think the top hand is like the most crucial part of the swing.
Force, right? So having good posture also helps tremendously with creating direction. Okay, so think about the swing, right, like an arc, but not a constant. It's not a circle. It's an unwinding arc that grows and gets larger. It's a spiral, right? So when we have good posture, we are able to take that unwinding spiral that's growing and get extension through the field of play, towards where the ball is coming from, okay? It's a really important thing to understand. Now, what else does it help with? Well, compression. When we get into the ground, right, we need to take the cannon and we have to drive it into the ground, into the lead leg. I'm going to tell you one of the biggest fallacies in biomechanics is, and in baseball, just in people's understanding of it, force comes from the ground. Nonsense. Nonsense. The ground is nothing without us. We are everything without the ground. The ground is just a stable object. We're independent. We're not an object like a chair. We decide to put force into the ground, and then we get force back out of the ground. The upper body actually...
I've never thought about that. I've heard a lot of people say use the ground to gain force, and I agree with it because it makes sense somewhat, but like the way he just explained that just blew my mind.
Means deceleration in the lower body. So after we get into that landing, our upper body needs to compress our leg like a spring into the ground. That's what helps us get stable and stop in the first place. If I'm up here turning like that, that really doesn't happen, right? That can't happen the same way. Okay, so posture also helps us with that. Okay? Now, at landing, you're going to see varying angles of the lower half, kind of like we talked about, right? And the stand specifically, when you look back, what changed his career, when he all of a sudden hit those 55 home runs, he started to close off more and more, right? And we actually trained a guy that, one of our big leaguers who was former teammates with him, and we had him text him. No coach told it to him. He just tried it one day and just did it a little bit.
What I just say, dude. What I just say. The coach didn't tell Stan to start going closed. He figured it out by himself, right? Everyone who wants a coach to do something for him, it's not how it works. A coach like helps you figure out. It's like a second mind that you can like bounce ideas off of, work with, helps you get a little bit better. But at the end of the day, you got to make the decision and you know what's comfortable. The coach isn't going to like, it's not math. It's not 1 + 1 is 2. Like if you got 1, your coach is not going to give you the 1 that you're missing and you're going to get 2, right? You're like playing around. You're like in between a zone. Like my swing feels awful. My swing feels amazing, right? You got to play around in this zone, right? And the coach might help you get back to like, I feel good, but he can't give you the answer. Like you got to figure the answer out.
And it felt good. It felt freedom was the way he described it. And he kept angling more and more closed, right? And the more angled he got, the better his numbers were, right? Because it gave him space.
But then again, though, like if you don't know a lot about hitting, then you need a coach. Like ignorance is a gap. Like if you don't have knowledge, it's a gap. Like between the ignorance you don't know and then the truth that's like factual. So like there's a gap there, and you might need a coach to like fill that gap, right? I might went the wrong way, but whatever. You know what I'm saying? So at the same time, if you don't have a lot of knowledge, you need a coach to teach you. But when the coach teaches you, that creates like the gap gets smaller, then you finally close it, and now you like can teach yourself. Like that should be the goal of every coach, to teach you how to coach yourself.
Gave him direction, but we're going to see a lot of different angles of hitters' lower half. Okay. Now, observation number 2, an astronomically large percentage of the goats start close, step close, scissor. Now you understand why. This one right here.
All right, I skipped that because that was something we talked about yesterday.
sharp lines, their pelvic rotation stops between like 60 degrees and like 85, right? It's literally helping my hips.
We talked about this yesterday too. How important. And if you want to go see the breakdown, because I really talked about it, look at the last video, because like the break. We're talking about how this is a break. The front leg's a break, and it's important, but we broke it down yesterday. Come on, son.
So if I'm going to crack a whip, right, and I want to crack somebody in the chest with that wet towel, okay, and I focus all of my attention and energy on going forward as fast as I can, am I going to send the energy into the end of the whip and ultimately strike my target? No. I have to focus my attention on pulling back as fast as I can to crack the whip, to send the energy into the target.
And if you've ever gotten like wet towel snap fights with your friends or whatever, you know that analogy should make perfect sense.
Right?
If you were good at it.
That's how it works. Our brain literally maps backwards. Look at that strike right at the end, you're going to see his belly shake in the other direction. Right? It doesn't matter how athletic you are, right?
Bruh. Yo, what is going on right here, bruh? What kind of video did he find, bro? This is crazy.
We're going to see it with everybody, right? You're going to see it with Miggy. You're going to see it with Trout. You're going to see it with JD. You're going to see it with all the best that have...
Okay, and back to it. Like, I was talking about the flip guy yesterday that works with Judge, like, and that's like taken over the internet, right? But like, no one talks about these guys, JD, Trout, Miggy, these guys who have fundamentally sound swings, who've been doing it for years. Like, they still hit bombs, they still hit good, like, and they don't do the flip. Like, it's not up and around. Like, in the up and around, like I said, it works for people, but like this also works too. Like the A-Rod thing works as a mental cue. Maybe not the way A-Rod breaks it down, but...
Okay? Observation 4, how quickly the trunk stops. This is a really powerful one. We didn't get onto this one until about a year and a half.
All right, this is exactly what I'm talking about right here, bro. The top hand is the most important part of the swing. I kid you not. Watch this movement right here. The trunk stops. All right, this is what I get he's talking about, but watch the flick that he gets with the top hand right here.
Quickly the trunk stops. This is a really powerful one.
That like flick and push he gets right there, that creates so much. I'm telling you, bro.
Didn't get onto this one until about a year and a half. That moment that you are creating tension everywhere in your body to deliver the full impact blow, getting all of see from the best, and that's what you're going to see from people that swing axes into pieces of wood. That's how you transmit real force into the ball, okay?
Red shoes or the blue shoes, question from the time he left the bat, but watch this!
Object, guys. We have to transmit energy. This isn't just rotate and let the bat hit the ball. We are trying to strike a moving object. We're trying to strike it, right? Yes, if we swing an axe into a tree trunk, it's going to stop us, okay? Just... I think it was the apartment building across the street.
Alright, I'm not gonna lie. I'm trying to keep this video under a certain size so I can actually upload this as one part. So yeah, this is part 2. Alright, you know what I'm saying? Again, we're on Instagram. We're on Instagram, yo. Right here. Undiscovered Prospects. We're on the gram. We're on TikTok. Alright. We're on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Tap in. If you're watching this, we're on YouTube. Alright? We're on YouTube. So, Undiscovered Prospects. Discover yourself so they can discover you. Yo, I'll see you guys next time. We got part 3 to watch, alright?